Welcome to Golden Black Live Game Day Edition. We don't get to say that only very often. Third time in Purdue history that they've had a Friday night game in Ross-Ade. Tom Dienhart joins me and want to thank our sponsors. Triple X on the hill, but on the level of Purdue tradition since 1929. It'll be hopping down there today, tomorrow. A lot of activities on campus, obviously, with not only football tonight. You've got Hall of Fame induction today. You've got volleyball tomorrow night in a sold-out Mackey Arena, and, of course, men's basketball and women's basketball fan day tomorrow. Crazy. But State Farm agent Trent Johnson also. TrentIsMyAgent.com. We appreciate them. Tom, Purdue has the tallest of tasks tonight when they take on the Oregon Ducks, number 2 ranked team in the country. 27.5-point underdog or something like that. One of the largest spreads, not the largest, but one of the largest in Ross-Ade Stadium history. And how does Purdue keep this one interesting into the second half, do you think?
Yeah, real quick. First, I guess the other Friday night home games were Ohio in 17 and last year Wisconsin, right?
That is correct. Oh, yeah, that's right.
I think, you probably need at least 3 main ingredients if you want any shot to shock the world, Alan. I think number 1, if you're Purdue on offense, you've got to shorten the game, as the analysts like to say, right? You got to run the ball, keep it away from Oregon's explosive offense. I've detailed in a notebook I filed this morning, just sort of look at that Oregon offense and where it ranks. I mean, it's awfully explosive, so you got to keep it off the field. And again, you do that by converting third downs. We got better at that last week. Run the football. And don't turn it over. So that's number 1. Control the ball, shorten the game. We saw Vanderbilt do that against Alabama.
Yeah.
Around 42 minutes time of possession for the Commodores. And I think, I always say if you're going to pull off a game like this, an upset like this, and you got to have at least one unconventional touchdown. You got to score on defense or special teams. I think that's always needed to do. And we saw Purdue do that last week with Will Helt. Having that scoop and score was a big one for Purdue. So those are a couple of things I think you need for sure. And I think, of course, thirdly of my big 3, Alan, is takeaways. I think you're going to need some help from Oregon. You can, of course, generate some takeaways yourself as a Purdue defense, but Purdue's probably going to need to benefit from 2, 3, maybe 4, turnovers by Oregon. Even having said all that, even if all those things happen, Alan, it's still a very steep hill to climb. But we say this every week. Every Saturday, we're shocked by some outcome, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, and I guess you have to look at one thing that could happen, maybe, is the fact that Oregon is coming off obviously a huge emotional win over Ohio State in a nail biter and then some. And making that trip, I don't know if that makes any difference either. But that's the thing too. You need a lightning bolt. That is clear, and it really everything you say makes perfect sense. But it flies in the face of what Purdue's been doing all year, and that is giving up at least 20 to 30 more plays than the opponent. Those kinds of things are, but we saw a little bit of that certainly in the second half at Illinois. A lot of that, I should say, with Ryan Brown and company. If you're Ryan Brown, you got to be relishing this opportunity on a national stage to make an impact, and he certainly did last week against Illinois.
You're right, Alan. That's one thing that maybe gives Purdue a little bit of hope, right? And there was, let's be frank, there was very little hope going into that Illinois game, coming off the 4 previous games, Notre Dame and Nebraska, and the Wisconsin game as well, and even out at Oregon State. So again, there's that, and we all know if Purdue has any shot at all to even stay in the game, the offense is going to have to click at the level that we saw in Champaign last week. And Ryan Brown certainly provided a spark, Alan. Now the big question looms: was that a mirage? Is that sustainable? Was that a function of Purdue surprising Illinois with a tweak scheme and a different quarterback? Was that a function of Ryan Walters' familiarity with Illinois' defense? So here we go. We're going to get a lot of questions answered, and Purdue's going to get to try to answer them against one of the best teams in America. So again, but having said all that, still, Alan, that offense has to give fans some hope. And I think the teammates like to play for Ryan Brown. He's a fiery personality. And you know what? Now we saw big plays for once this year.
Yeah.
It seems like we saw flat out big pass plays, some big runs too. And Purdue's going to need some big plays if it wants, again, like I said earlier, to have any shot to pull up a stunning upset. Is what about a 4-touchdown underdog, as you said?
And yet we've seen it before.
Yeah.
Purdue was a 20-point underdog. I think it was in the Tyler Trent game in 2018. It can happen, but it's going to have to. Purdue's going to have to hit it on the screws in every angle. One would think to be able to do that. Hudson Card, I know after practice Wednesday, you saw him in full gear. That doesn't guarantee that he will be available tonight by any stretch. But that's a key storyline too, because here's Hudson Card, a guy that Purdue brought in to lead things when Ryan Walters was hired. One of their first moves with Graham Harrell to get Hudson on board as a transfer from Texas. And in defense of Hudson, he's been well liked. He's a leader. He's a guy that maybe a different personality than Ryan Brown, but things have not gone as well as he would like certainly this year. It certainly was at the end of last year. He started to look like he got healthy and looked good. Do you have, who knows? I mean, does Purdue try to do some things with two of them? They're similar in some ways, but Card has not run the ball as much as I think at least it seemed on paper made sense. But and we saw them in the same backfield, of course, in the Wisconsin game for the one play down by the goal line. My point is, what do you see there? Is there a chance that you see Hudson Card tonight?
Yeah, that is a big question, sort of hanging over this game. On Monday, Ryan Walters said Hudson Card has not yet been cleared. Of course, he missed the game last week in concussion protocol. I did see him walking off the field on, I think it was Wednesday night when we were over there in full gear. But like you said, that I don't know that I can't make. We don't want to make assumptions, right? So again, number one, will he be cleared?
Yeah.
Number two, if he's cleared, will he play? And so that's what we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure Oregon's preparing for both Card and Brown. They are pretty similar from a trait wise. And the skill set wise, Alan, they're both good athletes, smart, and again, the biggest difference is probably just the personality. Hudson's an understated guy. He's more vocal. Been described to me as fiery.
Yeah,
has juice, has energy, which is two words that have been used by multiple people. And I think his teammates like him. And again, Jason Simmons, the analyst, was quick to point out this week that, hey, you know what? If we had Hudson execute that game plan that Ryan ran last week in Champaign, he likely would have the same type of success. So no indictment on Hudson Card and his ability to play quarterback. It was just a function of circumstance. And I think I've said this before this week. Maybe Ryan Brown is the best quarterback, or the right quarterback at the right time.
Yeah.
For where Purdue is at this very moment on October 18th. And again, that's no indictment on Hudson Card. Maybe this is the type of a personality they need to pull them out of this rut. So we'll see. It's been fun watching Ryan Brown so far. And like you said, Alan, let's see if first of all, number one, Hudson Card is cleared. Number two, if he is cleared, he plays. I will say this lastly, that it has been intimated that should Card be ready to go, that we may see both quarterbacks for sure. Jason Simmons said that on Monday.
Yeah, it's going to be a storyline to watch. Obviously, a lot of the Ryan Walters regime is in trouble. At least when you're 1-5 in year two and not living up to expectations, or at least hopes, I should say, for this team. Any effect on that? It seemed like the team rallied behind Ryan Brown last week, and maybe also Ryan Walters calling plays with Jason Simmons in the box. But what's your sense of urgency there? I mean, I think I think it's still something that's going to be evaluated at the end of the year. That somebody else bigger than us will make that evaluation of where this direction this program is going. But how do you view that as a sidelight or a storyline to where Purdue football is right now?
Yeah, it's the elephant in the room, right, so to speak. Maybe it's not really an elephant. We're all talking about it, right?
Yeah.
Fans are talking about it. The message boards are ablaze with speculation and conjecture. will Ryan Walters be back in 2025? And we can say it out loud. It's okay, right?
Yeah.
And who knows? Who knows? I mean, we know we've talked before. This is a different era of college football. Stakes are much higher. There's a lot of money involved now. NIL, guys are getting paid. Expectations from fan bases and alumni are through the roof. They want results. They want them now. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, if Purdue does decide to turn the page down, you and I have been around here a long time, and people watching this obviously love Purdue and have been around the university. They know Purdue does not act hastily. That is not in Purdue's DNA or not their modus operandi to fire people after 2 seasons as a coach. So this, I think would be unprecedented if Purdue made
Yeah, it would be
2 years. So that just shows you the tenor of the times, right? That they'd be willing to pull the trigger on this. I guess if you're the boss of the athletic department, you have to say, well, if I bring them back, what happens to ticket sales? How does that impact my NIL donations? How does that impact recruiting? Is my fan base going to be engaged? If I don't bring them back, just pros and cons, right? I'm sure Bobinski, he's a lot smarter than me. And you got to trust he knows what he's doing. And like I said, these last, 6 games are going to be very interesting because, as you know, Alan, the schedule is awfully tough down the stretch.
Well, one thing's for sure, there's worse things in the world than having to go to a college football game in a full stadium on a Friday night and see one of the best teams in the country and one of the best quarterbacks, a team that will, in all likelihood, not only make the college football playoff, but will have a chance to vie for the national championship. It'll be fun to see the Ducks in town and to see what Purdue does. I mean, I think that's I think there's intrigue, and that I think was the net value of the second half of last week. Because could you imagine going into this game after a 48-3 loss, which is kind of what we were headed towards last week at halftime? I think that at least keeps people in the stands, and I think that's a big storyline for Ryan Walters down the road. Is can you keep the fan base engaged enough? You've sold a lot of tickets, not only for tonight, but for Northwestern on November 2nd and Penn State on November 16th. You got to hope fans keep coming and that they stay interested. And that's where number 15, Ryan Brown, at least gives you some hope. I'm not saying he's the whole key to everything, but you got to have interest, right? You got to have something, like you said, that juice that keeps people engaged. And I think that has a chance of happening.
You got to have hope. You got to have hope.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the biggest thing. And, as much as we plotted the offense and its signs of life, Alan, again, the bigger concern is the defense.
Yes, no doubt. We haven't even touched on that yet, and that really is the elephant in the room, is it not?
This is an abomination. Real quick. Purdue is last in the Big Ten in rushing defense, total defense, and scoring defense. I've said before, they're allowing 39 points a game, Alan. If that continues to be the case, that will be the most points Purdue's ever allowed per game in a season on defense. I'm not telling fans nothing they don't see with their own 2 eyes. Missed tackles, big plays allowed. They can't stop the bleeding, and no matter how good your offense is, it's hard to keep digging yourself out of holes if the defense continues to spring a lot of leaks.
Yeah, Oregon's offense as good as it gets as well. Yeah, if you just could have made a couple plays, a lot of late third down conversions last week, Purdue would have been walked out of Memorial Stadium with a win. That's the frustrating thing, not only for the coaching staff, but for all that watch Purdue football. So look for Tom Dienhart's work post-game. It will be a late night. But we'll be burning the midnight oil in Ross-Ade Stadium after the midnight hour because that game starts at 8. It will be over around 11:30. By the time post-game and all that, it will be into October the 19th, not the 18th. But we'll look forward to that. It's a privilege to be able to do what we do, and we'll look forward to that as well. All right, stay tuned because segment 2, Tiffany Grimes, Purdue Deputy Athletic Director, will join us. Obviously, Tiffany oversees football, among other things, and a lot to talk about with Tiffany and in her, I believe it's her third year at Purdue Athletics. And, of course, Chris Peliadot, who outside of Tom Dienhart might be the busiest person in Purdue sports. Of course, Chris handles as an associate athletic director, fan experience. So he's got events today, tonight, tomorrow, and all a part of what you see as a fan in Ross-Ade Stadium, in Mackey Arena, in Holloway Gym, etc. Chris has his fingerprint on that. So we'll look forward to those 2 interviews as well. Tom, thanks again. We'll be back in 2 minutes on Gold and Black Live.